Hey, what's up, bro? So in this video, I'm just going to walk you through kind of the SEO process, more so the setup process. So we break it down into two parts. We have the setup process, and then we've got the ongoing process. So we kind of visualize is, the setup process is basically getting everything structured. So making sure your page titles are good, the structure of your website is good, making sure everything is, at a good base level. And then once you have that base, now you can start growing. You can start adding blog posts, adding videos, adding content once you have a good base. But if you don't have a good base, yeah, you could still rank, but it's going to be a lot harder. You're going to be fighting an uphill battle. But once we get that base structured, you can start ranking a lot faster. So I'm going to cover the base for you here quick. The very first thing you want to do is run a report and figure out how well you're currently ranking and how well you're currently structured. So we have a form embedded on our site. You come to fill this form out right here, hit check. It's going to take a couple minutes, and then it's going to create a PDF report. This is what the PDF report is going to look like, and I'm pretty much just going to walk through this with you guys, break it down, understand how to read it, and understand how you can make use of this data to improve your website ranking. This is all on-site, by the way, so this is the on-site is just the structure. Really, when it comes to growing with SEO, it's content that gets you to rank, and I'm going to show you some examples towards the end as we transition into the ongoing SEO. Make a very end of this video, I'll touch on that a little bit, and then I'll make a part two only talking about ongoing SEO. That being said, uh, you can see here, I ran a report on Ben's website. So this is Ben's site. I only use him, me, and Heath as examples. I never use clients as examples unless they give us permission. So as you can see here, we have an A with on-page SEO. So we already built a pretty good structure. Links are an F. Links are one of those things that you don't really need to put as much value into them as you used to. But you still want to set up your citations, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Usability, a little bit. Performance could use a little bit of work, and then social. Usability is important. Performance is also important, but it's not as important. If you're looking at the 80-20 principle, what really matters is the on-page SEO, and really that's the number one thing. Links matter a little bit. Obviously, usability is important, but the most important thing is performance or on-page SEO. You can see here it's recommending we execute a link building strategy. And so in order to do that, go set up your citations, set up Yelp, Yellow Pages, Better Business Bureau, your Facebook page, Nextdoor page. All of those accounts are going to provide a backlink to your website. And so like the more of those you have, the more legit your website is going to look because you're putting in effort, right? You're creating a network literally of connections. So I'd recommend doing that. Basically, just go through and do everything. So whenever we are doing SEO, we're just going to go through the report and do everything we got to do. It's really not too difficult. Remove duplicate H1 tags. What are H1 tags? So let's go to his site here. So this is the H1 tag. That's like the number one thing on a site, and each page on your website should have one H1 tag because that tells Google directly what that page is about, and that's going to have the main ranking factor is your H1 tag. Then obviously after that, you've got your H2 tag, H3 tag, and then you've got your images, your videos, those sort of things that are going to contribute as well. So you can see this page apparently has multiple H1 tags. This might be an H1. So you just want to make sure you only have one H1 tag per page. Let's go check a couple more important things. You can see here it tells you the priority as well. Link building is pretty important, which is really just setting up your citations. It's not hard. It's very, very easy. It just takes time. Yeah. Use your main keywords. Okay, you see it's low priority. Alt text. So he probably doesn't have alt text in all of his images. And for those you don't know, scroll down. You see how I'm looking at these images right here? You and I can see them because we have human eyes. A computer can't like look at an image the way that we do. So what the alt text is basically tells Google what's in the image, the contents of the image. So this one you might say house washing before and after. And so always use a keyword in your alt text, and then it needs to describe what's actually in the image as well. So just keep that in mind. Same thing with all these images. My guess is that most of them don't have alt text, and they should all have alt text. Let's go down a little bit more. Facebook Pixel, he doesn't have installed. Okay. You see a lot of these are low priority. Again, we're really big on the 80-20 principle. There are thousands of things we can do to increase your SEO, but there's only a handful of things that are really going to move the needle in measurable ways that you can actually look at the data and say, okay, yeah, that's a big change. We could do 1,000 little things that don't really change much. And it's like, oh, we did all this stuff for you, but you didn't get any results. You don't care about that. You care about results. So that's why we take the 80-20 principle. And there's going to be all kinds of things. Remove iframes, for example. This is one of the things you're not going to do. You're going to keep that iframe because although the iframes may have a slightly negative impact on the SEO, they have a much more positive impact in other ways. So things like that is just something to keep in mind. Of course, it says on-page SEO is good. You're going to go through and check all the title tags of every page, the meta description of every page. Basically, just making sure your pages are structured correctly. If you're trying to rank for the keyword roof cleaning, guess what? Your page title should have roof cleaning in whatever city you're targeting. If you're trying to rank for fence cleaning, deck cleaning, whatever you're trying to rank for, roof cleaning, you should have that in the main keyword. You should have it in the title. You should have it in the head 1 tag. You should have it probably in a couple of head 2, head 3 tags throughout the site. The alt text of your images. A video would be bonus, and then a blog post about that as well with the FAQ section. How much does it cost to clean a roof? That kind of stuff. What kind of questions do your customers ask you? Answer those questions in the blog article format. And guess what? You're going to get rewarded for it because people are going to do searches like, roof washing prices, roof washing companies near me. And if your website and your market has the most content about roof cleaning, guess what? You're going to show up for roof cleaning a lot faster or a lot more often than your competitors are, and you're going to get those leads. So um, that's the key thing. And this is telling us keyword consistency. Yeah, he's definitely okay. Yeah, so it looks like he's got a couple pages with, again, more than one header one. You should only have one header one per page generally. Again, keywords, you got house. You should have power washing up here a little bit higher with his keywords. It should be in his title too. Look, he doesn't got any in his title, nothing. So there's some phrases. Yep. Okay. So these are titles, right? These phrases should be keywords, really. These are the most used phrases on this website. So these should all be keywords. You see, you got pressure washing is good. Home washing is good. Read more should not be up here. Posted on Google should not be up here. Date should not be up here. What should be up here are his main keywords. So he's got some work to do on that. Now, granted, he doesn't have very many pages yet, so it's going to be easy to do that. But yeah, this is why it's so important to structure your website correctly from the beginning, because when your website does get to a point where you have 100 pages or 200 or 300 pages, going through and changing all of that becomes a lot harder, when you have that many pages. And we create blog posts, we create service city pages. It's very, like, whenever we do an SEO campaign, your website can go from 10 pages to 100 pages pretty quickly. And so, if you wait until after you do all that to try to structure it, well, guess what? You're going to be in for a pretty hard time. So that's why it's so important to structure it beforehand. You can go down a little bit further. Structured data, schema.org. It is using schema.org, which is very, very important. You want your website. I'll show you here. So you see how he's got his reviews integrated from Google right here. So Google rating, 97 reviews. So this is pulling his reviews directly from his Google My Business listing, which is really good because whenever people do a Google search for pressure washing in his city, Google's going to display a little 5-star rating next to his link. So it's going to show it obviously in the Google Map Pack, which everybody knows about. That everybody can do that, right? But underneath that, with the organic websites, it's going to show it again, another 5-star. So it's going to increase his click-through rate a little bit, right? Which may not sound important, initially, but when you start thinking about thousands of searches over the course of a month, that becomes a lot more valuable. So there's that. Let's go down a little bit further. And like I said, guys, you can go in and create your own report for free on this website. So you can look through it and see that what you actually need to do. You can see he's really not ranking too well for his keywords, so he's got to do some work on that, which you don't expect because he's not doing an SEO campaign yet. He's just getting set up. So usability, okay, so this is important. Web vitals, iframe. Again, you're not going to do much about the iframe. It says on X, some of these things you just can't avoid because of the nature of your website and what you need your website to do. There are certain things that you need to have on it. It may have a slightly negative impact, but the positive impact is going to outweigh that negative. So keep that in mind. You're going to see some X's, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Legible font sizes. Okay, so this is saying increase your font size a little bit. Have been found in plain text. Okay, that's another one. Remove some emails. Okay. Performance. His page speed is actually pretty good. You'll notice a lot of pages don't have the great page load speed. This is another one of those things that don't overvalue it. You don't need to have an A+ right here. You can still rank and get results. Page speed, it is important to a degree. Like if it takes more than 3 or 4 seconds, that's a problem to load. But in this case, SC minus for this really is not having much of an impact on his SEO. Now, if you improve it, yeah, it's going to help a little bit, but it's not one of the 80-20 principles that's going to move the needle with the same amount of work. Like writing a blog post or creating a video is going to get you much better SEO results than stressing out doing little stuff like this. Yeah, I mean, it's an X here, but it's really not hurting you that much. So just keep that in mind. You have a limited or a finite amount of time available to do so much work. It just makes sense to do the work that's going to move the needle the most. Why put a bunch of time into something that doesn't really matter too much when you could spend that same time working on something that's going to move the needle in a big way, right? Writing a blog or something like that. We got the YouTube connected. Again, I always recommend connecting YouTube. Of course, now we're getting into stuff really not too important. This is basically showing you all the pages that he has. So you see, he doesn't have very many pages. He only has maybe 10 pages max, somewhere in that ballpark. Ideally, if you're really doing high level SEO, you're going to want to have 40 or 50 pages targeting he's got Dayton, but then you might have around Dayton, you've got your suburbs, your towns, your little cities, your little municipalities that the locals would know about. An outsider may not know about a little suburb inside of Dayton, but the locals do. And so if the locals are doing a Google search and they see that little keyword pop out, that location, it's going to feel even more specific to them. They'll be like, oh, wow, they're just right in my backyard. Boom. That's the purpose of doing it that way. So that, and then also the map pack. So go ahead and go through, and actually I'll tell you what, once you've gone through and done this, if you actually want us to, we can do a quick SEO report as well. So I'll just show you a quick scan report that I did here for Heath. Again, I only show me, Heath, and Ben as our examples. So you can see here, this is the site that we did for Heath quite a while ago, and this basically tells you where this is the Google Map Pack. So this is the other report I just showed you was all website data for the most part. This is Google My Business data. So you can see all the spots where it's number one. That's where he's ranking number one at. So if somebody lives in, this area, somewhere in this ballpark, he's number one. You zoom out a little bit, you start getting over here. I mean, this is a very competitive market. You start getting over here towards this Houston area. That's out of his service area a little bit, right? So he's obviously, ranking 11th, 9th, 8th, 6th, not ranking as high over here, but he's also not serving over here quite as well. This is his main service area, which is why he's ranking so well. So this is Google My Business. So I can run a quick report on this as well for you. If you want me to, just go through and fill out the next step of the process, and I'll run a report for you. And then whenever we're going through SEO, we have another checklist that we like to go through. And this is it right here. This is the one I was doing for Ben. Let's go through and do the checklist here. So whenever we set up an SEO campaign, again, this is before you even think about doing monthly SEO. This is just structuring everything and setting everything up. And this is something you should do whether you plan on doing ongoing SEO or not. See here, we got Google My Business. Yes, he has one. Basically, this is just a bunch of stuff, making sure his Google My Business is optimized correctly, got images, got some reviews, his business hours are structured correctly, his products and services are entered correctly. And we get into citations, and so I was telling you guys about. So getting into citations, right? Citations like Yelp, Yellow Pages, Better Business Bureau, those are things that are going to give you a link back to your website. It's also a way for people to find you. It gives you exposure where people can drive traffic to your site as well. The local business citations are very, very important. And they're going to determine your ranking a lot faster as well. So one thing with ongoing SEO is you can regularly update your Yelp page or your Yellow Pages page. And that's one way that you can help do a little bit of SEO. Now we're getting down into our website. So obviously the homepage, and I just showed you that report. So that report basically more or less showed you a lot of the same stuff you're going to see here. This is just like the most important stuff that you need to have. All your images, for example, all your images should have an alt text. Do you talk about the location where you operate? Yeah, you should be doing that quite a bit. And you can see Ben has a few no's in here. And so that's some work that we're going to do. And by doing that work, he's going to see better ranking, right? Responsivity. All of our websites are responsive. Your website should be too, this day and age. Other pages, you're basically just going to do the same. You see here it says, fix all the issues highlighted in the scan. So just pretty much going back to that scan we just did. Again, more or less the same thing we just did with homepage. Then the tracking tool. I have a couple different tracking tools that I like to use. The one I just showed you is Local Falcon. I also like Bright Local. There's a lot of different good ones for tracking local SEO results and metrics and data. And so the one report that I just showed you, which was Heath's report, a lot of times brand new companies don't have good ranking like that. Like a lot of times you'll notice, your website might be red in a lot of places, but your competitors are green. And so you can go in and see what your competitors are doing, and what you can do to kind of outrank them, right? Uh, yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, once we go through that entire list and pretty much optimize, and I can make this list available to you as well. But once we go through that list and make sure everything's optimized, at that point, the on-site or the setup SEO is done. And now you can start thinking about either, doing ongoing SEO, or you can just kind of leave it, at that stage. You can also, choose to do your own SEO. So you could either do it yourself, or you could outsource it to a different company. But the most important thing is, before you start doing monthly SEO, you got to have that base, right? And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and upload part 2 right after this video. So part 2, I'm going to dive into the ongoing, what is actually included in ongoing SEO, and how is that different than the setup phase. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you here in the next video.